11:04, hour number 3 of today's edition of the Paul Allen Project. Dave Sinekin in the big chair today, along with Brett Blakemore. And I'm pleased to welcome our final guest of the morning, Lavelle Neal III, kind enough to spend some time with us. Lavelle, are you making your way down to Eagan for Vikings OTAs today?
Yeah, after I get off the phone with you, I'm probably going to swing over there and kind of check out some action. And then, the start of the football season is upon us, believe it or not. So, the Wolves and the Wild did their best to, fill the breach until this moment came. They got 2 weeks close. But now, we got OTAs, and we got Kyler Murray, we got interesting quarterback room, and we got no Jonathan Grenard. So there's a lot of things to kind of chew on here with the Vikings.
Yeah, I assume the quarterback situation will be what everyone's focused on, at least right off the bat. It's just the first OTAs. We've got all mini camps and all that stuff before training camp starts in July. But it's hard not to be aroused by, a quarterback competition, if there is one, or at least a very well-known name entering the picture in Kyler Murray. And you mentioned him already. I assuming that's where your eyes will focus, at least initially.
Yeah, but I'm not going to be one of these journalist rubes that are going to Kyler completed 8 of 8 passes and drills today, and J.J. McCarthy only completed 6 of 10 and 7 of 7s, and I'm not going to drill down that deep into all this minutia. I'm just curious to see how the offense looks with Murray. What is KOC? How is he putting Kyler in the best position to succeed? And now Kyler's acclimating to KOC. I think that's going to be very important. I think he's got to be considered the front runner to be the signal caller once the regular season begins. JJ is coming in with a head of steam. He went out to California, refined some things. He's confident. He's optimistic, and he's going to come in and try to give Kyler a run for his money. So that's good. Competition is good, man. So nothing like a quarterback quandary to kick off the whole NFL calendar.
Yeah, for sure. Look, it's May, as you say. It's almost June, but it's the abyss. We understand this. As you say, the Wild and Wolves did their best, but we're used to by May and June now to start turning our attention to football. It's just a natural thing. But I wanted to spend a minute on the Twins, a team that obviously you're very familiar with as a longtime beat reporter for the Twins, and you still write about them. They beat the Sox. They beat your hometown team last night, finally, after losing, 7 straight, I think, to Chicago. Yeah. Another great outing for Joe Ryan, another impressive performance by the bullpen. Brooks Lee gets the big hit. And suddenly this Twins team that no one really, there's a small core of fans that are diehards, but I think a lot of the baseball fans have reasons to not warm up too much because of ownership. But these players, I think, should be giving fans reason to get a little bit interested. They're playing some good baseball right now.
Yeah, I think the big development here is that they've found a way to make the bullpen functional. I don't know what Pete Mackey's doing or LaTroy Hawkins is doing, but at the beginning of the year, it looked like the bullpen was going to be the weakest link of this team. You'd like to start in rotation, even with Pablo Lopez being out for the season because of elbow surgery, but closing games out. The fact they've got 32 different players have a save for the Twins right now.
Right.
And that's unheard of, and we're not even 2 months into the regular season, and they've had so many different guys. So, but it looks like Andrew Morris is going to be kind of like that final 3 inning, plug him in and play him in the most dangerous parts of the batting order. I think he's kind of emerged as that guy. So, that gives Derek Shelton a little bit of relief, knowing that he's going to feature prominently in late game situations. It's just a matter of getting the ball to him or getting the other guys to step up. And yesterday worked out. Bandit came in and got some outs. And by the way, you can't underestimate the job Joe Ryan did. He was absolutely sensational right up until Murakami hit that 2-run homer to tie the game in the 8th inning. That guy is fantastic. Murakami on Monday hit a fastball from Sevi. It was 96 miles an hour on the inner corner of the plate, and he pulled it like it was nothing. This guy's legit. He's real. He is a dude. And but what Ryan did was just fantastic. His pitches were moving all over the place. When they get enough offense, so you're sitting at 500. Who saw this coming? Who predicted this going into the regular season? That the Twins would be sniffing 500 through 2 months, and the American League as a whole would be kind of topsy-turvy. I think there's only 4 teams over 500 right now, maybe 5, and then everybody else is under 500. That's just a weird season right now in the American League.
Has Taj Bradley's start to the season, I know he's been a little banged up, but he came back. Has that been the biggest pleasant surprise for you for this Twins team, or is there something else I'm missing?
Taj is definitely up there. I think the bullpen not being a playpen is pretty significant. But Bradley coming in and being a boss has been very encouraging. You know what? Maybe you needed to change the scenery from Tampa Bay when they made that trade. He's had a bunch of starts under his belt. He's been in the league for a handful of years, and now it looks like he's putting it all together. So, yeah, him and Ryan are a great 1-2 punch, and then Bailey Ober's getting outs when he can, and Zebby Matthews is throwing the ball over the plate more, you know, and then you're going to get some contributions every now and then from kids like Connor Pralip and Kendrys Rojas, and you're waiting for David Fest to get it healthy and make able to get back in line here. And also, well, folks, I know there was a lot of, you know, consternation last year at the trade deadline when Derek Favre, you know, conducted the fire sale. And you can argue about some of the moves they've made, and getting rid of Zebby is tough. You know, Louis Varland is tough when he has so many years under control. But in the end, he traded Griffin Jacks, who was a reliever at the time. I think he's trying to start for the Rays, for Taj Bradley, who looks like a quality starter. Traded Joan Duran to the Phillies, got back Nick Abel. Looks like he's going to be a pretty good starting pitcher. Mm-hmm. And then traded another reliever, you know, Varland to Toronto. And yes, that's tough to watch those years of control leave, but they got a lefty back in Kansas Morales who looks like a guy. So if this works out and they ended up with 3 quality starting pitchers out of the mix, you know, we're going to look back at this in 2-3 years from now and say, you know, those ended up being pretty prudent moves.
Yeah, 100%. And as the Twins have learned, and baseball fans know, you cannot have enough starting pitchers because you just don't know how long you're going to have that depth in starting pitchers. Quickly off the Twins for a second. Have you watched the highlights or seen what Jacob Mizorowski's been doing for the Milwaukee Brewers? He had 57 pitches over 100 miles per hour the other day. I mean, I worry, as a guy that grew up a big Brewers fan, you know, is his arm going to last? He's so slight, and the velocity that he gets, he made the Yankees look embarrassing the other day. He's one of those young guys that you pray he stays healthy because he throws it like very few people we've ever seen throw the baseball.
Well, first of all, I'm not surprised you brought up a Milwaukee team.
Of course.
Two, Mizorowski, he must be an alien because you look at how slender he is. And it doesn't look like he's wiry. He looks like just kind of a string bean type guy who's swinging the ball up there, and it's going across the plate at 103 miles an hour. It's really scary to see what he's doing and what Major League Baseball is going to have to contend with in the coming years here, man. And as you pointed out, it's not just a few pitches over 100. He's thrown a couple of 100 pitches this year over 100 miles an hour, over 101 miles an hour. He is going to be a problem going for whoever faces him, man. You know, it's fun. It's fun watching those type of guys break into the scene. And Miz, he's just 24 years old. I mean, he could have a long career. I hope he stays healthy. I really do. I hope that he's not one of these max effort guys that eventually is going to break down. It's good for baseball to have someone like him with the talent he has to come in and just dominate. Look at that. He's got a 1.83 ERA. He's already struck out 100 batters in 64 innings. That's just sick. Mm-hmm. So good thing. Hopefully Rob Manfred holds off mass realignment when the Brewers and the Twins may end up in the same division, so they don't have to worry about facing him so many times in the season. But I'm a fan. I'm definitely a fan. I'm a fan of Pat Murphy. I think it's an awesome story for someone who was a long-time successful college coach to come into Major League Baseball and become a pretty good manager on the Major League level. You don't see those types of moves upward in the game. So Actually, the Brewers are a fun team to watch play.
Yeah, I mean, they lose Counsell, who was the hometown kid, went to my high school, actually. He leaves to go to the rival Cubs, and here comes this baseball lifer in Pat Murphy, who's never gotten a chance, and now he's taking them to heights that the team hasn't even seen, although he got pretty irritated by his reliever last night, Abner Uribe. Did you see that?
Yeah, well, that guy was an idiot. And then he tried to blame the Cardinals for it, claiming that the manager was making signals about how they were going to hit his batters. And I was like, what? And that just came out of nowhere. So this whole thing has gotten weird.
He did the WWE crotch chop like 3 times after getting a strikeout, which was challenged. If the strike had gotten overturned, I don't know how he gets back on the mound and throws after doing that. But, yeah, that was not a very classy move, and Pat Murphy was none too pleased afterwards. Had some words with his boy.
He may get fined because the league is already all over. Was it the San Francisco Giants outfielders that were doing the hip thrust to celebrate wins, and they quietly informed them not to do that anymore? And now you've got the guy doing crotch whatevers after a big strikeout. I wouldn't be surprised if the league makes an example of him.
I'd be fine with that. Yeah, there's no place for that. It's just not sportsmanship on any level. All right, I want to weave Brett Blakemore into our conversation in our last few minutes because I know both of you are beyond geeked and excited for the World Cup. It frankly does not register on my radar, but I know I'm in the minority. So talk to me about what you're most excited about now that the U.S. men's team roster has been officially announced. What has you excited about the pending World Cup?
What excites me is that, I had the pleasure of covering the USA-Brazil game in 1994, which was 32 years ago. And now the World Cup is back in the United States, and they can show how much this country has evolved since then. And yes, it has evolved. I know it doesn't register on a lot of people's radar still, but the soccer community has grown, development has grown. There's been a proliferation of stadiums. MLS has 30 teams. There wasn't even MLS when the World Cup was held 32 years ago. Wow. I think MLS started in 1996, to be honest with you. And just to see the sport being celebrated in this country and in some of the finest stadiums in the world, I am thrilled. It's going to be great soccer. I hope the United States figures out a way to get to the group of 16. I don't know if they have it in them. I'm worried about the goalkeeping. I'm worried about what happens if Tyler Adams gets hurt and there's no cover at defensive midfielder. For the first time, I'm actually comfortable with our striker situation with Belugan and a couple other guys. It's going to be fun. And I'm predicting Spain to win the whole thing and lift the cup.
All right.
Yeah, there's basically going to be 3 to 4 games a day for like a month and a half. It's going to be fantastic.
104 games total starting June 11th.
Oh, can't wait. The roster for Team USA just came out, the U.S. men's national team. A lot of people up in arms about Diego Luna not being on there. I'm not much, as I am a Euro snob, so an MLS player getting snubbed doesn't really do much for me. Is there anything that you took away from the roster reveal, any snubs or anything that got you in a tizzy?
Yeah, like I said, the fact that they don't have a lot of cover in the midfield is concerning to me. Once again, Tyler Adams is only true, like really defensive midfielder there, and if he gets hurt, there's no Tanner. They didn't select Tanner Tessman, so there's really no backup unless Ponch has seen enough in practices that he thinks he could plug in McKinney or Sebastian Berhalter or someone else in that role to stem the tide here. Chris Richards needs to stay healthy. I hope he's healthy in time for the World Cup. He's going to try to play this week for his club team. That's a big development because he's one of the better defenders the United States has produced. And I am just so worried that we're going to have a 38-year-old Tim Ream trying to run around the field and keep up with these young bucks. These type of guys get exposed on the World Cup level every 4 years. And I'm worried that Ream's going to get run around and that's basically you're going to punch in the face. He's got to figure out a backup plan if Ream becomes unplayable. So I'm worried about those. Some of the things I'm worried about as this tournament approaches.
Are you going to make your way to Chicago or any other of the American locales and cover this thing as a journalist or as a fan?
No, we're not covering it. I mean, it would be great if we had a local interest. We don't have a local player, on the team this year. I think Jackson Ewell was the closest thing we had to a possible connection because I think he played at Bloomington Jefferson, but he was in the pipeline for a while. But you kind of got passed up by some dudes in the last couple of years. So there's no really local angle. I tried to go as a fan, but I tried to get on the FIFA website and get in line to get tickets, and it just ended up being just fruitless. Waiting for hours, waiting for my screen to reload, and eventually me having to go to work and not being able to just sit at the computer and try to buy tickets. So, but the funny part is there's rumors that the secondary market has opened up and there's tickets available, and there's hotel rooms too. I saw tickets for Austria and Albania down to $259, where they were over $1,000 like a couple months ago. So I don't know, if I get a win, maybe I can try to run down to Kansas City and catch a game at the last second. We'll see.
Yeah, I was looking to go to Chicago when the World Cup is there. My son just moved there. We were going to spend a weekend. Hotels in Chicago around the World Cup are beyond ridiculous. I mean, maybe they have come down a bit. I'll look again, but you couldn't find anything in the city under $800 a night when the World Cup is there. It's just insane. So I hope that has changed. Selfishly,
those have come down too because they blocked off a lot of rooms and no one was biting. So there's stories in some of these World Cup cities that. There's hotel rooms available at reasonable prices now because there wasn't the demand that they anticipated.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I'll keep an eye. I'd like to still get down there. All right, enjoy it. Enjoy all 104 games, however many you watch. Enjoy the OTAs with your Vikings, and we'll enjoy continuing to read you in the Minnesota Star Tribune, my man. Have a great summer. Hope to catch up again soon.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
You got it. Lavelle, Neal III. When we come back, a shorty. But an update on the Josh Jacobs situation, and Brett and I will bat around who might be someone to replace Josh Jacobs, or at least be Josh Jacobs' insurance for a Packers roster that is very thin suddenly at the running back position. It'll be a short segment, but it's newsworthy, and I'm here, so deal with it. It's the Paul Allen Project on the Fan. With you at 11:25. Dave Sinekin in for Paul Allen today with Brett Blakemore. Common Man will take over at the top of the hour. A little Packer talk. It's newsworthy. Matt LaFleur is speaking to the press right now. Packers also, like the Vikings, going through OTAs this week, and the bombshell dropped late afternoon yesterday that running back Josh Jacobs had been arrested Saturday in Brown County around Green Bay on 5 charges. He's being held without bond, all around domestic abuse. One of those a felony. Very disturbing, obviously, and again, innocent until proven guilty. We defer making judgments, but it's obviously when you're talking about, from my standpoint, when you're talking domestic abuse, it's concerning, disappointing, and we'll see what happens with Josh Jacobs. Matt LaFleur basically just deflected when speaking to reporters in the last 10 minutes and said, we're just going to let the process play out. He didn't really want to speak too much about it because, as you can imagine, they want to see what happens and where this thing goes. But it's put the Green Bay organization in a very tough spot at a position, from a football standpoint, where they have very little behind him. They let the backup go via free agency, Emmanuel Wilson, and didn't draft a running back. They have Marshawn Lloyd, a third-round pick from 2 years ago from USC, who has been so injury-prone he's been available for 10 snaps through 2 seasons. They did re-sign their third guy, Chris Brooks, who's more of a third-down guy, pass protector guy, not an every-down carrier. So they're likely going to be in the business of adding a running back regardless of what happens with Josh Jacobs, because they don't know if or when he will be available for them. He was asked about using Savion Williams, their third-round pick a year ago, who's kind of a Cordero Patterson type, can be kind of a receiver / running back. He did say that his focus right now is to keep Williams at wide receiver and let the process play out before any additions happen at running back. Quickly, other news that he mentioned was that Micah Parsons will open training camp on the PUP list. The team's hopeful that Tucker Kraft will return by or during training camp, and that right tackle Zach Tom likely won't return until training camp. So some of the big names that are nursing injuries, not surprisingly, nowhere near ready to resume duties here as we sit here in May. Brett Blakemore, obviously disappointing news on number 8, the Packers running back, who, this offense does revolve around the running game. That's how Matt Fleur's offense, the Shanahan tree, the McVay tree, you've got to have a really good running attack, and they built this offensive line and moved it around to be better than they were a year ago, and Jacobs was the focal point. So as we sit here today, I'm not going to use him in the past tense, obviously, but it's a real disturbing development. And from a football standpoint, I assume this team is going to have to make a move of some kind.
Yeah, it's a horrifying development. You just hope that the process works out, and once everything is set and done and the investigations are all over, then we'll make character judgments then. Mm-hmm. But if you want to just strictly go football, the line was, as you mentioned, not good with running the ball. It was a huge problem, which forced a lot of getting behind the sticks. And just Jacobs, it felt like, and anyone really, could not, despite a good Emmanuel Wilson game or two, couldn't really get a lot going on the ground. So it's a huge problem, and if you don't have Josh Jacobs, it's an even bigger problem. So however they want to move things and however they can reshuffle and try to get something going, I'll believe it when I see it, but I'm not as hopeful that the running game is going to be as good as it once was.
Well,
I hope so.
Whatever they add, if they make an ad, it's not going to be a Josh Jacobs quality player.
Yeah. What do you think of Mixon?
Joe Mixon?
Yeah.
5 years ago or now?
Now.
I'm not real excited. Let me give you the list, because he is on the list. I mean, there are a lot of name running backs available. Again, these are not guys you want as your starter necessarily in 2026. That's why they're still free agents. But once we cross over June 1st, it opens up the ability for a lot of teams to bring in players. There's no compensation issues as far as when you bring in a free agent after June 1st. You don't have to worry about giving up draft picks. So all across the board, you look at pass rushers for the Vikings. So you talk about, Espinoza, who's out there and visited with Chicago last week after failing a physical in Cleveland. He's a pass rusher that maybe a team like Minnesota or even Green Bay might look at. Or Jadeveon Clowney is still out there, a big name, if the Vikings decide to add some depth after trading Grenard. Those are the kind of guys that now you'll start reading about after June 1st because there's no loss of draft picks when you sign these free agents. Here are some running backs. Tell me, I'm just going to rattle off a bunch of them. Let me know if any of these guys would pique your attention. Najee Harris, Antonio Gibson, Joe Mixon, Kareem Hunt, Miles Sanders, Austin Eckler, Nick Chubb, Raheem Mostert, the old Packer favorite Jamal Williams, Elijah Mitchell, Deuce Vaughn. Does any of that excite you?
I mean, Mixon maybe. I still have nightmares on the Mostert prop. Do you remember that game?
Yes.
Or Mostert looked like a Hall of Famer.
And maybe that's why he's one of the names that does interest me. Because, yes.
It was in San Fran, wasn't it?
Yes, but, in Miami, he and Achane were a nice combo platter. Achane finally kind of usurped him a little bit. But, yeah, he's had some big games that I remember. And we also talked briefly with Alec Lewis in the 9 o'clock about a couple of trade partners. James Conner is kind of the odd man out. These guys are coming off injury a little bit, but Conner, I think, is trade bait. They drafted Jeremiah Love, number 3. They brought in Tyler Algier from Atlanta. Where does Conner fit? Green Bay's been linked to Josh Sweat, the pass rusher in Arizona who wants out and had his best years with Jonathan Gannon. Maybe they package Sweat and Conner together. You bring a couple Cardinals and give up some draft capital.
That's
maybe
the team you want to ravage is the Arizona Cardinals.
Exactly, right? Yeah. But that's a guy that might be the odd man out in Arizona. And Tony Pollard in Tennessee, the former Cowboy, is another guy that, of all the free agents I mentioned, I'd rather have Tony Pollard. I don't know. Yeah. I can't imagine it would cost you a lot to pry him away from a young Tennessee team that, yes, wants Cam Ward to have a lot of options as far as weapons goes, but I wouldn't think he'd be very expensive. And a guy that I would look at. Green Bay does not have a number 1 pick to offer. They do have a 2. They have a 3. They have up to 4 fourth-rounders next year, 11 picks total, despite not having a number 1. So they have picks to play with if they want to dangle 1 or 2 of them to bring a running back in. But all in all, just a bad spot to be in here at the beginning of June to lose one of your captains, one of your voices and veterans of your offense, of a very young offense that, again, Love's been around a while, and now Christian Watson's been around a while, but Love or Jacobs was the veteran, proven presence on that offense, and if he's not around, that is a big loss for our team.
Yeah, it just feels, I don't know, when I read it, it was almost like the last guy I was expecting to, like it just seems, I don't know, out of character. I don't want to comment until everything is done, either which way. But it's just
a tough spot because
it was a shocking thing to read that it was him.
And we say that a lot as fans. You feel like you know players, and then something happens. You go, man, he's the last guy I would have thought.
Yeah.
But you're right. Jacobs he's been presented to us as the guy that rose from the ashes of a really tough childhood to make something of himself, and has been a leader at Alabama and with the Raiders, and since he came to Green Bay. And again, we don't know what happened, but we understand that he's being held without bond right now and facing a felony charge among a number of charges.
Which was interesting.
Yes.
And his attorneys, and they put out a statement saying everything is false, and let's let it play out because everything is false and we're going to prove it.
Exactly.
Basically.
So here we are, less than 24 hours later, we have no idea what's going on. But
Correct.
We do know that there is a reason to believe that there are some issues at the running back spot for Green Bay going forward. And we'll see, obviously, what we learn as the days and weeks go by. All right, let's pause for the final time. When we come back, I want to answer some texts we've gotten on the Timberwolves and what they might do this offseason. I threw out 5 big names. Do any of them make sense? Do any of them interest you? We welcome your input on the Wolves offseason, and we'll swing around and look back at everything that's going on in the world of sports in our final segment, Paul Allen Project on The Fan.
You're listening to Dave Sinekin on The Fan. It happened.
What's it all about?
We are back. Final segment of the Paul Allen Project today. Dave Sinekin sitting in with Brett Blakemore. I want to read an email I got a little over an hour ago from a 218 area code. Would love a shout out for this awesome upcoming event. Starting tomorrow at Super Rink in Blaine is the Hendrickson Foundation National Hockey Festival. It's an event full of all aspects of disabled hockey: sled, special, deaf, hard of hearing, blind, and military warrior. There are teams from all over the country competing, as well as a celebrity game featuring past and present Wild players on Saturday. Come out and cheer on your local Minnesota teams and support the Hendrickson Foundation, founded by Darby Hendrickson's father, Larry, now being run by his brother, Danny. They support all disabled hockey in the state of hockey. That sounds very much worth a mention on The Fan. Good luck to all the competitors, the families, and all in Blaine and around who are going to check that out. And I'll try to remember on Saturday to give it a shout as well. That sounds like an amazing event up at the Super Rink in Blaine. Again, starting tomorrow. It sounds like at least through Saturday. So I appreciate the heads up from our 218 texter. You stopped me during a break. You have something on your mind you'd like to get off your chest, Mr. Blakemore?
Yeah, it's kind of a theory, and it's not going to make Kevin Fallness, who texted me, there's not enough hockey on the show. I texted him, listen to yesterday with Russo. But I got the text, and we see it all the time. 612 guy says, because we briefly mentioned the World Cup with Lavelle. And so there's a reason soccer never took off in the U.S. as expected. The flopping is unwatchable, and thus I haven't watched. And we get that all the time. And I'm here to tell you, you're right. The flopping is a joke. It's incentivized. It sucks. But then this Western Conference Finals with Spurs and Thunder just has me thinking, the flopping there. I mean, SGA alone. I saw another Thunder player walk up to a guy and fall down immediately and got the foul for it. To me, and then the low scoring is the other argument you hear. If you see a no-hitter in baseball, you watch two guys play catch for 4 hours. You know what I mean? So to me, the reason is not the flopping, because has the NBA ratings gone down in the U.S. since SGA? It hasn't. The attendance hasn't gone down. People still watch it. They'll complain. They'll say, SGA flops all the time. But the ratings haven't changed. People still watch it. to me, and by the way, soccer will never be a core sport here, ever. I don't think there's anything the U.S. can do. It'll be a niche sport, and that's fine. I have plenty of niche.
I was told it was going to be the next big thing in the 70s when I was a kid.
Correct. I think the running joke is it's the fastest growing sport for like 50 years or something like that.
It's like the metric system, kind of.
Exactly. Right? So and I'm fine with it being, my music is niche and the shows that I watch are, so I don't care if it's a niche sport. But I think it's not the flopping or the low scoring. I think because we don't have the best league in the world, no one cares. You know what I mean? There's like 5 different leagues in Europe that are all of similar quality. If we just had the best league in the world with all of the best players here playing, I think all of that stuff would get looked over. And it'll never happen. Ever, ever, ever in a million years. It's our toothpaste out of the tube. It's done. And the MLS will never be that. But I was just thinking about that. It's like, because clearly flopping isn't it? Because we watch SGA every night. And no one cares.
Well, I do think people care. And this is somewhat of a new phenomenon. Now, flopping's been around for a long time, but they've started to penalize flopping in recent years, right? Kind of, right. If you're fined 10, 20 grand, it's like finding change in your pocket. Yeah. But if it becomes too vocal where fans are like, I don't enjoy this brand of basketball, and it's a shame because you go back to game 1 of Spurs Thunder, I could rewatch that game 1,000 times. I mean, that was as entertaining and eye-opening as far as Wemby's dominance in game 1 with that win in OKC, where flopping wasn't the story in that game. It was, look at how talented these teams are. And look what this French kid is able to do at his size, scoring, what did he have, 40-some points and 20-some rebounds and whatever. So it's unfortunate now, 4 games later, that we're seeing the lengths that the Thunder players go to get the whistle. And once the fans rebel a little bit, as Chris Hine and I talked about earlier in the show, the NBA doesn't just sit on its heels. They understand they have to make sure their product is entertaining and that the ratings are there, especially now with the untold billions that are available in TV with all the streaming partners that are willing to throw money at your product if people want to watch. So if people start to not want to watch, they will change how things are officiated and how players get away with it. But I do like the parallel because there are sports fans that say, I can't watch soccer because I don't want to see a guy look like he needs to have his leg removed after barely being touched. And Shea is kind of falling into that same bucket.
And we talk about it with everything, though. I mean, really, football's the only one I can think of. But like hockey, how many times do you see a high stick Jamie Benn in the Wild Star Series? A stick was, a foot away from his face, and he threw his head back like he was shot, and he got the call. And it happens. If it's incentivized in any sport, it's going to happen. I guess the point I was trying to make is that flopping doesn't stop people from watching the NBA or sometimes hockey, but it's the thing that keeps them from doing it. Just
as far as soccer goes,
to me, it's the talent level that you can watch locally in your backyard. You can watch the best players in the world at Target Center and at Grand Casino Arena and at US Bank Stadium, and you can't do that with soccer.
Yeah,
so I think that's the biggest limiting factor.
I think that's true. As you were talking about the Premier League, it got me to think. We see the NFL playing so many international games, and the idea that maybe someday there will be an NFL team based in Europe. I don't think that'll happen, but it's been thrown out there.
I know the Jags are usually the team that gets tossed around when that happens, but they're building a new stadium, I think.
I think they are. Yeah. It's a lousy market for football. If you think of all the markets, Jacksonville's probably the weakest. But why not put a U.S. team in the Premier League? Why don't we go the other way and have a team based here? I understand.
That would be awesome. But I think London would burn down before that happens.
Is that right?
Yeah. But they were so, I was thinking just baby steps, and I thought about this, of having a game. They'll have like the preseason tours. Well, the teams will go around while they're warming up to various, and there's inevitably 6 or 7 teams that come to the U.S. every summer. Not this year because of the World Cup. But even if they played a regular season game like we do, the NFL goes over and plays regular seasons all the time in Europe. And even that was just like, absolutely not. No way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all of England would burn down probably before that happened.
I guess that makes sense. But and it's all about TV money when it comes down to it. And they're not hurting in the Premier League. They're not looking for new avenues to try to. Yeah, they're getting along just fine. So we talked about the World Cup with Lavelle. That's coming up, 2 weeks. I'm being told Chicago is not hosting.
So they're hosting a U.S. warm-up game, I believe, against Germany.
That must have been the weekend I was looking to go to Chicago.
Yeah, but it's not a World Cup game.
So
it's a warm-up game.
What is the closest venue? Do you know?
The closest actual World Cup game is in Kansas City. But the U.S. plays their group games basically exclusively on the West Coast. It's L.A., Seattle, and back to L.A. They're 3 guaranteed games.
Oh.
And then if they win, you're on your own after that.
Got it. All right, so I threw out in the 10 o'clock hour, talking Timberwolves and off season about, what big swing could they possibly take. And I threw out five names of guys that might be relocating this summer, and do any of them make sense for the Wolves? Beginning with Giannis, we've all talked about the Wolves' interest in Giannis last season, as any team would be. I don't think that's as likely because I don't think this team is going to part with Jaden McDaniels in light of what we saw in this postseason. Not just what he did on the court, but the way he kind of spread his wings as a leader, went right at Denver, was the best player for this team, maybe along with Rudy Gobert in that Denver series. And the chemistry with him and Ant and Naz, I don't think they break those 3 up. I'll be surprised if Conley takes a swing to a level that moves one of those, not Ant, but moves either Naz or McDaniels. I will be surprised. If you want Giannis, it's going to cost you at least one of those 2 guys. I don't see Milwaukee being interested in any other package of what the Wolves could offer that does not include McDaniels and or Naz, and I'm out on that. That does not interest me. But I threw out Kyrie Irving and Ja Morant, and those are the 2 guys that I've gotten the most response from in the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text chain here. I've seen one text that's in favor of Ja Morant. Virtually everybody else connects the dots and say, wait, if immaturity has been an issue with this team and maybe selfishness, is Ja the personality you want to bring in? And I totally understand that. I think the only way you do it is if you believe, that what this young man needs is just a change of scenery, to move out of Memphis to a different organization, that the talent there is inarguable, and maybe he'll realize that he ran himself out of town and he'll be a different player, and you can talk yourself into that. But then if something goes haywire a year or 2 from now, you're going to say, what's Trent's famous line he likes to use with me? What are you pretending not to believe? Something like that. Because it's kind of like, you've seen it. Why do you think it's going to be different? So I think there are definitely red flags around Ja, and to a lesser degree, Kyrie as well, right? I mean, maybe not so much behavior like Ja has, but the age, the injury concerns, and you wonder how he does fit as a strong personality in this locker room. But I said it earlier, I don't think this organization can worry too much about chemistry. We thought they had it last year, and they told us after the season that the chemistry wasn't great. I'll be very surprised if the Wolves don't make some major moves in this offseason. And I do believe that the days of a front court of McDaniels, Randall, and Gobert are over. I don't think those 3 guys are back. I believe McDaniels is back. I think Rudy will be back. But as Chris said earlier, there's probably more interest from other teams in Rudy than Randall. I've seen reports of the Atlanta Hawks maybe being interested in a Rudy Gobert deal. There's another team out east that escapes me right now that might be linked to having interest in Rudy. Is that the right move to move on from Rudy? I don't know, but we do know that what we saw in the Western Conference semifinals is an organization, yes, hampered by injuries, so it's hard to read too much into what would a healthy Wolves team have done against the Spurs if Dante and that shooting ability and that grittiness that he brings against that Spurs team, I think he would have been very useful and maybe changed a little bit of what that looked like. If Ant's anywhere near 100%, if Naz with the shoulder is close, I mean, we just don't know how much those injuries impacted how close the Wolves are to the Spurs. But I think in light of the fact that it's not just the Spurs, by the way, it's the Thunder, that this team realizes they're going to have to shake things up. I'm fascinated by what this offseason might look like. I hope they bring Io back. I hope they get Connolly signed. And I do hope they take a big swing. All right, I hear the music. I want to thank Alec Lewis for joining in the first hour. If you missed that, he was in studio. That'll be available via the podcast, which will be posted shortly. Chris Hine joined to talk some NBA, and most recently, Lavelle Neal III as well. Thanks to those gentlemen. Mr. Blakemore, thanks to you. Always a pleasure to chat with you during the week. Is PA back tomorrow? Is he out?
Charging
tomorrow.
Yes.
Fantastic. So possibly some more NFL conversation with Charch tomorrow, 9 to noon on The Fan. The Common Man program is next. He and Atena will fill in the next 3 hours. Have a wonderful week. I'm Dave Sinekin. Talk to you Saturday in the Zone.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to